Welcome to The Explainer. You know, one of the biggest challenges in any classroom is how do you reach every single student? Well, today we're breaking down a 6-step framework that's designed to do just that. It's a blueprint for bringing some serious clarity and structure to daily lessons. A win for teachers and for students.
And really, this quote gets right to the heart of it. Think about that. When everyone in the room, from the student to the teacher, is on the same page about the what, the why, and the how, that's when things really start to click.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the classroom problem that sparked this whole idea. Then we'll get on the same page with some key terms, lay out the 6-step blueprint, walk through each piece of it, and finally, we'll look at the brain science that makes it all so effective.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story starts at Tuba City Schools within the Navajo Nation. The educators there were facing a challenge that, let's be honest, teachers everywhere know all too well. How do you manage to support a classroom packed with diverse learners day after day after day?
So, as they were observing classrooms, something really important clicked. They saw that individual teachers were doing all these amazing things, but there was no single coherent system that everyone was using. And without that shared structure, it's almost impossible to make sure every single student is consistently getting the exact support they need to really thrive.
Okay, so before we dive into the blueprint itself, we got to make sure we're all speaking the same language. You're going to hear about a multi-tiered system of support. So let's take a quick second to break down exactly what those tiers are. First up, we need to get the difference between core instruction and differentiated instruction. Think of core instruction, that's Tier 1, as the main course that everyone gets. It's the foundational lesson for the whole group. Differentiated instruction, on the other hand, is how the teacher then responsibly adjusts that main course to meet the specific needs of each individual student. So, to put it simply, Tier 1 is that solid, high-quality lesson that every single kid in the classroom gets. It's the bedrock, it's the foundation that everything else gets built on. Then you've got Tier 2. This is for students who just need a little extra help in certain areas. And the key here is that it's not random. This is planned, small group work that is totally targeted to what those students need. And super important, it's monitored to see if it's actually making a difference. And rounding it out is Tier 3. This is where you get really intensive, individualized support. It's for those students who need the most help, when that core lesson and even the targeted group work aren't quite enough. Okay, so now that we have those tiers in our back pocket, let's get to the solution they came up with, and it's pretty elegant. The whole idea wasn't to pile on another program. No way. The goal was to weave these tiers of support right into the DNA of every single lesson every single day. And boom, here it is. This chart just lays it all out so clearly. You can see exactly how the time in a lesson is supposed to be spent. I mean, look at that. The 2 work time blocks are the biggest chunks, right? A whopping 65% combined. But the thing that really jumps out at me is that debrief at the end, 15%. That's a lot. Why so much? Stick around because we're definitely going to get to that. All right, let's do this. Let's walk through each of these 6 steps and see how they actually work together to create a lesson that's got a solid structure, but is also super responsive to student needs. So what you're looking at here is a consistent, repeatable structure. And that's huge because it makes differentiation just a normal part of the day, not some extra thing you have to tack on at the end. It gives teachers a game plan, and for students, it creates a predictable rhythm they can count on. Okay, step 1. The hook. We're talking a quick 2 to 5 minutes to kick things off. But here's the deal, and this is important. This is about getting their brains working. It's not just for fun. The whole point is to spark some curiosity, tap into what they already know, and basically get their minds warmed up and ready to learn.
All right, after the hook comes the mini lesson. This is your classic Tier 1 whole group teaching time. The teacher lays out the goals, shows how to do the new skill, and gives super clear instructions. The name of the game here is clarity. We want to remove all the guesswork so every single student is starting from the same solid place.
And now, things get moving. This is the first big block of work time, and this is where that differentiation really starts to shine. Students might be rotating through different stations, maybe working with the teacher, then with some classmates, then on their own. And this is the perfect time to slide in that planned Tier 2 support so it feels totally natural.
After all that focused work, it's time for a brain break. And again, this isn't just free time. It's an intentional pause. It's a chance for students to reset, get their focus back, and even practice a little self-regulation. Honestly, it's a life skill. And since everyone does it, you can think of it as another piece of that universal Tier 1 support.
Okay, batteries recharged? Good, because now we dive into a second work time block. And having this extra time for practice is absolutely key. It gives the teacher another shot to reinforce the main lesson and to really dig in with that planned, monitored support for any students who need Tier 2 or even Tier 3 help.
Okay, remember that chart from earlier? This brings us back to that really interesting question. The final step, the debrief, gets 15% of the total time. That's more time than the hook and the mini lesson combined. So, what gives? Why is the end of the lesson given so much weight?
Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It's not just about tying a neat bow on the lesson. The reason is actually rooted in the science of how our brains work, how we actually make memories stick. Here's the mind-blowing part. We don't really learn something the first time we hear it. I know, right? The real learning, the kind that sticks around, happens when our brains have to do some work. It happens when we have to actively retrieve information from our memory, think about it, and connect the dots. And that is exactly what this final debrief step is all about.
And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be some big, complicated thing. Just asking a few simple but really powerful questions is enough. Questions like, what did we learn today? Or why does this matter? And how does this connect to stuff we already know? These prompts get students to do that heavy lifting themselves, to put things in their own words and really cement the learning.
So when you pull it all together, you can see why this 6-step blueprint is so powerful. It's got the research baked right in, it's actually practical for teachers to use every day, which means it's sustainable. And it makes integrating all those tiers of support feel totally seamless, not like a chore. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Think about a classroom you know. How could a clear, consistent structure like this completely change the learning experience? Because at the end of the day, this kind of clarity isn't just another teaching strategy. It's about building a predictable, supportive world where every single student knows the plan and has a real chance to succeed.